The Washington Arts Club has invited me to curate a few exhibitions here at the club with works by Helen Covensky. The Krieger Museum itself has in its permanent collection a wonderful abstract work by Helen Covensky that was purchased by David Krieger some time ago. Her style, her sense of color, her sense of composition is particularly noticeable in this work we are looking at here right now, which is carefully composed, carefully built up with small shapes, these round circles. And it's a careful build-up in terms of deliberate composition and a wonderful sense of color, and applying pigment, in this case, in a very flat manner, in a very thin manner. For example, here, the blue, very close to this wonderful orange, the very light blues against the purplish blue, and then these white spots that kind of almost act as certain breaks within this very lively, very luminous composition. This canvas shows another side and another quality of the art of Helen Covensky. It's large in scale, and as opposed to the first work we looked at, it's characterized by a heavy buildup of pigment. The quality of texture is very rich, and many of her work are known, are praised for her use of texture. The buildup of pigment we see here is, however, not random. It's not really automatic painting. It is fairly deliberate. If you look at the individual sections or shapes or applications of pigment, like here, this pink, next to another one of pink, a light green, then it changes to red, to kind of an orange. And if you look at the canvas, we see this wonderful sense of composition, control, deliberation she puts in as she explores the entire palette.
So I always thought Mother was very influenced by Poland, the folk art, the colors of the folk art, the paintings of the wildflowers. It's when I went to Poland and saw those, and I talked to Mother. And if you see any interiors of Eastern Europe, I think it expresses a lot of what Mother's colors are.
She takes these bright colors that characterizes East European art, not only Poland, but also Ukraine and Russia. She takes these bright colors and she abstracts them. She takes away the figurative aspect, the narrative aspects, and just leaves the pigments, the color combination. And of course this one, in its liveliness and its brightness, in the saturation of its colors, very much could establish a link with Polish and East European folk art. And what also kind of impresses me is the way she sets this painting down. It has a sense of gravity. At the very top, she consciously decided not to add any more paint, whereas the paint reaches the very edge of the bottom. This type of art, this kind of expressive style, Helen Covensky inherited and herself developed further and adopted and made it her own from the New York School of Abstract Expressionism, known by these famous painters such as Willem de Kooning, who came from Holland, Mark Rothko from Eastern Europe, Hans Hofmann from Bavaria, who very much shaped that style. In 1981, Helen Covensky had a major retrospective at the Detroit Institute of Arts, which is remarkable for being one of the major venues in the country. It was a solo show for a woman, and as we know, abstract expressionism was very much dominated by male artists, although we know a few major figures, Joan Mitchell, Grace Hardigan, and of course here to these well-known women painters we can now add Helen Covensky.
My mother was very affected having survived the Holocaust, but instead of painting realistic paintings of the horrors, she painted on the theory of the affirmation of life, and that every stroke was one for one of the 6 million. And I think that's quite a feat if you see all the strokes, and not that she actually counted them, but I think that's how she felt.
For her, it is not only an affirmation, but a continuity. These lives that were sacrificed in the Holocaust, their spirit, their work, and through their descendants, they continue their existence represented and documented in these abstract canvases. This painting is by far the most romantic canvas of the three we have been looking at. Several aspects bring out that romantic feeling. Her emphasis on blue. The blue is oftentimes associated with the romantic movement. Towards is a color that's prevalent at night. We talk about midnight blue. And at the same time, this midnight blue brings out a certain sense of mystery, a lack of clarity. It brings out a certain distance. This feeling of change is wonderfully captured by this shape that she brings out through the dark blue, giving a certain sense of composition. And I think more important, that restlessness is the way she moves from these dark purplish blues into the very light. This swift change from light to dark, from dark to light, adds, I think, very much to the sense of motion and restlessness she really wanted to convey in this beautiful romantic canvas.
I've always liked Helen Covensky's work ever since I first laid eyes on it, but what really strikes me about her paintings is completely different from anybody else's. When I look at them, I always feel like she's just put the last touch on. And I feel like the music's still playing, and I feel the sort of temperature in the room, and I feel like she's just walked out and said, "Here, look." And all of them strike me that way. All of them have that same spontaneity, which I've never seen anywhere else in the world.